Hello, welcome everybody. In this new lesson, we are going to begin to talk or to introduce nanostructures, and this lesson has been divided into three different blocks. The three different blocks are divided according to the dimensions of the nanostructure. This means that it could be classified into 1 dimension, 2 dimension, or 3 dimension nanostructures. So we are going to study why this classification and to develop different examples and the contents of this unit. So we are going to begin with. And in this case, we need to begin from scratch. So we are going to define what are nanostructures or nanomaterials. So nanomaterials or nanostructures could be defined as structures or materials with at least one of the dimensions of this material or structure have a nanometric scale. Okay? So they are between microscopic size and molecular size. We are talking about this range of measurement, and it is widely accepted that when we are talking about nanostructures, we are talking about measures that are under 100 nanometers. Okay? So we can classify nanostructures or nanomaterials into three different groups, and these three different groups would depend on the kind of material that we have. For example, in this slide we can observe 1-dimension nanostructures, 2-dimension nanostructures, and 3-dimension nanostructures. In this case, when we are talking about 1-dimension nanostructure, we can be talking about both the dimension that is nanometric would be on one direction only. So this means that, for example, this dimension is nanometric, but the dimensions on the length or on the width of this product could be micrometric or even bigger. Then, when we are talking about 2-dimension nanostructures, we are talking about nanostructures in which we can observe that at least we have 2 dimensions nanometricals. Okay, so in this case we would have a length which could be micrometric, millimetric, or even kilometric if we want. But the cross section of this tube would be nanometric. So this means that we have 2 dimensions, 2 nanometric dimensions, for example, X and Y. Okay? And regarding 3-dimension nanostructures, it means that all the dimensions of the particle or the structure of the material would be at nanometrical scale. Right. So according to this definition, we are going to begin with 1-dimension nanostructure. Well, here we can observe that when we are talking about nanometric structures, 1-dimension nanometric structures, there are different possibilities. We can be talking about the nanometric distance between, for example, 2 sheets or 2 layers of a product, which are nanometric, or we can be talking about the width of one product. Okay? So in this case, it could be nanometric. In this image, we can observe that we've got, for example, both. We've got different sheets of different layers of a product which have a nanometric width, but also the distance between the different sheets could be nanometric, as we can observe in this part, right? So this is what we call 1-dimension nanostructures. However, we can observe that we are going to find different possibilities depending on the references or in the literature. Depending on the author, they can consider, for example, nanowires, nanorods, or nanobelts as 1-dimension nanostructure. But this is not true, because what is nanometric is not 1 dimension, it is 2 dimensions. Okay? So 1-dimension nanostructure is not the same as 2-dimension nanostructures like nanowires, nanorods, or nanobelts, which would be studied on the next lesson. Well, here we can observe that we have that 1-dimension nanostructure is not nanowire, okay? But what is true is that some authors call them quasi one-dimensional nanostructures. Why? Because they are not taking into consideration the one of the parameters, which would be the length of the nanorod, and then they consider that it's one dimension, but it's not correct, okay? So here, for example, in this slide, we can observe that we have a picture of different nanosheets or nanomaterials which are made of different scales or different felts, okay, which different layers or sheets, okay, which are on a fabric. Well, when we are talking about two-dimensional nanostructure, usually it is made in a felt or in a non-woven, okay? If we use, for example, nanofibers in the shape of a non-woven, perhaps we can use 2D nanostructures to convert into one-dimension nanostructure, which would be, for example, a non-woven with nanometric width. Well, we have studied what is the definition of one-dimensional nanostructures and the possibilities or the different misunderstandings that could be on that issue, okay? And we are going to finish this part at this moment, and I wait for you in the previous videos. Thank you very much for your attention.